Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
How was San Diego?
So it was a wild ride. That's all I can say. It was amazing. It was brilliant. I feel like I've been away for about a year. I honestly, it was only 8 days, 8 days, but I feel like I've been away for a year. Just
Wow.
so much just happened. It was amazing.
Well, I cannot wait to hear about. Well, you should talk about it now, but I'll let you lead this because obviously
Well,
it
yeah,
would make sense.
yeah. Well, we were just kind of texting this morning, going, "What are we going to talk about today?" And the first thing which kind of popped into my head was, well, let's talk about investing in ourselves because I have just invested in myself in the sense that what I've just done is I paid for about 9 months ago. I heard about this training in San Diego. So it was the same people who I trained to do, it's Paul's Breathwork, who I trained to do my breathwork training with. And there was like a level 2 advanced training. And I didn't really know very much about it. I had just been spoken to one of the girls who did it last year. And from her experience, I was like, I need to go. I need to do that. And I did not really know what I was going to do. But she just sold it to me. So I contacted Paws before they'd even advertised it and said, I'm in, I've got to come, which is such a crazy thing. And it was an investment. It was an investment not only for the training, it was like a 5-day, 4-night training. I say it was a training, it was more of a retreat than a training. It was a kind of a training, but it was more of a retreat. And then obviously I had to get myself to San Diego. I had a few days either side of San Diego, in San Diego, so I had to, pay for accommodation and all of that. And yet it was one of the best things I've ever done. It was one of the best things I've ever done. And
Wow.
at the time, and I think it's with anything that we invest when we invest in ourselves, and we can do this for anything, can't we? It can be to learn a new skill, to learn a new training. It could be to go into a retreat and go and give yourself something which you really need. It could be simply going to have a massage. Whatever it is, it's something which you need for yourself, not for anybody else, but for yourself. It can actually feel really scary, and you almost you might feel a little bit guilty sometimes, like, God, can I really afford to do this just for me? But my goodness, I learned that it is just so nourishing. As human beings, we're here to grow. We're here to be the best version of ourselves. And sometimes we can get so the mundane of life, and life's hard and all of that. And actually, when you kind of take the time to put energy into you and into your own growth, then, oh my gosh, then magic things can really happen. And yes, there were moments before I went and did this trip where, hi Caroline, I can see Caroline, who's just joined, was who I spoke to before I did this trip this time. And yeah, initially it's like, God, can I spend that much money on myself? Can I take that much time away from the family on myself? And all those feelings, can arise, and you can start to feel a bit guilty because we're not used to putting, giving ourselves all of the things quite often, especially, when you've got, well, anybody, but especially when you've got young, you've got kids and all of that. But oh my gosh, it was so worth it. And I just think that for anyone listening, if you're ever wondering about taking that time and that money and putting it into yourself, you're never going to regret it. You're never going to regret it, because that is when when you go do these things, it just expedites any sort of growth. It just, you're trusting somebody else to help you along that journey, to have your own connections, your own kind of growth. I don't know if I'm making any sense whatsoever.
You totally are. You totally are.
And yeah, this trip was the first trip, Lucy, that I have done. And this, you'll be surprised about this, because I know that, you talk a lot about going and traveling alone and doing all these things alone. It's the first trip I have ever been away abroad on my own, without family, without friends. I did go and live in Italy for a year when I was a student, and that was kind of on my own, but I was still part of the university, and it was all, so this was the first time. And so that was really scary, but oh my gosh, it was so freeing and so much fun, and I absolutely loved it. Once I got over the shit, I'm all on my own and this is quite scary, I loved it. And then the actual training itself was just, it was a wild ride. It was like the most incredible bunch of humans. It was just like, we were kind of basically cracked open. And then we were kind of put back together again. But the connection in that sort of little group of 30, I think it was like 30 of us, was unbelievable, because we were all there. We were all open to whatever was going to happen. And it was pretty wild.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to talk to you more about this for sure. But yes, obviously in terms of investing in yourself, you and I, the only reason we met is because we invested in ourselves. We did an online course, and that is how we met. So had we not invested in ourselves then, we would never, we wouldn't be doing this now. We wouldn't be friends. And I think one of the things to sort of note about investing in ourselves, and like you say, it can be, I suppose, when I think about when you suggested doing this topic, the immediate thing that came into my mind is something like a course or a retreat or something like that. But of course, you rightly mentioned that it can be just as simple as like going for a massage, or I guess having your nails done or anything like that. But the funny thing is that we spend money on such shit, and we spend money on clothes that we don't need. We spend money, in the pub. We spend money on a meal out or whatever it is. Or, you only need to look at, if everybody actually had a look at how many things they're subscribed to, Netflix and Amazon Prime or whatever it is. Yeah. And we all, we seem to feel fine about kind of quote unquote investing in those physical objects, but not that a subscription is, but you know what I mean? But when it comes to investing in something that we can't actually see, like a retreat, like an online course, something that isn't so tangible, it's just like we go, oh my God, and we come up with every and any excuse as to why we can't, or we shouldn't, or we can't afford it. And I just think that investing in ourselves, why are we not prioritizing that? Because you can't spend money better than investing it into yourself. And what you will have got out of that breathwork, that breathwork retreat, those 5 days will have, I know, changed your life and made you see things in such a different way, in a really positive way. And as you know, I went to a retreat a year and a half ago in LA off the back of the course that you and I did. And again, it's just, you can't underestimate the positive impact of spending money on something like that to help you grow as a person. But it is the thing that always goes to the bottom of our list, if indeed it's even on the freaking list. Because I think for most of us, it's like, well, I would never do that. When I went to LA, this, I was just like, oh my God, I'm insane. What am I doing? Spending this money. Something inside of me was going, just go. You've got to go. You've got to go. So I just thought, fuck it. And I went. And it really is so true that the transformation, and it kind of accelerates. Like, so if you're working on something or you're trying to achieve something or whatever it is, investing in yourself, actually, whilst it costs money up front, you're saving yourself money in the long term, because it's accelerating your growth so much that it's totally worth it. But I do think that we, for some strange reason, investing in ourselves in that kind of capacity, like through a course or a retreat or whatever, you know, some kind of education, online educate, not, it doesn't have to be online, but, you know, education, something of that type, we're a bit like, oh gosh, I couldn't possibly spend the money on that. Whereas we'll easily spend the money on a freaking pair of shoes or a jumper or a holiday, or, you know, and actually, I think personally, when it comes to spending money, you know, we will prioritize the things that we want. So if we want to carry on buying a bottle of wine every night, but telling everyone that we're broke, we will find the money for that bottle of wine if we really want it. I always manage to find the money for the bottle of wine. But do you know what I mean? It's like we will find the money, we will justify the money for this or that or the other. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, it's like a real block. And I'm not quite sure why that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, that it's your self-worth, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's how worthy do you feel of that investment?
yeah,
You've got low self-worth, you don't feel you deserve it. And actually, you know, when you take that step towards investing in yourself, that transaction is so powerful. I really do. The moment that you have made that transaction, you have put the energy into the
yeah,
time. And I also believe, and from experience from working with clients, the more that you pay for that transformation, the bigger the transformation you've got. I know personally as well, with the more money I put into something, you show up for yourself. You are there. You are invested straight away. The moment that you have made that transaction, you're invested, you're in it. Whereas if you just, you know, anything I've offered for free, or, you know, and I know this, if I sign up for something for free, you're like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. You're not really invested in it. But when you have that opportunity to invest in yourself and make that transaction, and you're invested, and that transformation can begin. And the same with clients, the more that they pay with me, they're here, they turn up, they do the work.
yeah,
And you know, the money is simply energy. It's like a transaction of energy. It's like, you know, if you're giving, and the people are just receiving and not giving anything back in return, then it doesn't feel good. It feels like totally misaligned. Whereas if there's a energetic transaction of like, I'm giving you this, you're giving me the money in return, and you see it as energy,
mm,
then
mm,
it's a much more, it feels better. And people
yeah,
who are giving you the money, or if I'm investing in the money, you're gonna do the work. You're gonna have that transaction. And as human beings, we kind of need that. We need something to keep us accountable, to keep us going. Because otherwise, it's, you know, life is busy. We've got so many things going. It would just fall by the wayside. And even though you think you want it, unless you've got skin in the game, it's very easy to let it slip by. So that, I think, as uncomfortable as it can be sometimes in parting with that money, actually it's very, very necessary to help you along the way to whatever it is you want, to that transformation you want, whatever that might look like. Uh,
yeah,
I know that you know, you might not have the money, and then that's fine. But then it's a matter of like going, okay, well, I can save up. Most things these days you can do payment plans. There are, you know, you can have a certain level of transformation for free. There is so much out there, podcasts, you know, there's so much out there for free. I'm sure you're the same. You know, if I sign up for a free course, I generally just never get to the end of it.
yeah,
Uh, and it's just a matter of like, yeah, if you want to really get someone's knowledge and that transformation quicker, then I think it's an absolute no-brainer.
yeah, completely. But actually, one thing that this is sort of slightly off topic, of, you know, spending money to invest in yourself. Actually, you know, you mentioned podcasts, and you and I both know that, you know, we've podcasts, audiobooks, whatever it is, we've both invested time. There's, you know, there's also a sort of a time investment in yourself. How are you spending your time? what are you doing with your time? How are you investing it? Are you investing your time in yourself, or are you investing it in just a load of crap? And I think that's worth bearing in mind because, yeah, I mean, absolutely 100%. I agree with you that when we have, like you say, skin in the game, when you have that sort of financial transaction, then you are so much more likely to show up for it and do the work and subsequently get the transformation. But forgetting investing financially in something, we can all invest more of our time into things that are good for us, like listening to a really inspirational podcast instead of tuning into the news every morning, or you know investing time into listening to a book when we're going for a walk rather than listening to music, for example. Not that there's anything wrong with listening to music going for a walk, obviously, but you know what I mean. So what are we investing our time into? I think that's just as important. But it's so true that when you hand over cash, not literally, but when you hand over the money for something, then you definitely do feel it essentially it is down to accountability, because that, paying money for something is a way of holding yourself accountable. Because if you, like you say, you and I have both done free courses, and I've signed up for loads of free things. Some of them I've done, some of them I haven't. And the one thing actually that I have realized I very, very, very rarely do is if I sign up for something online, like a workshop or whatever, and they say, oh, there's going to be a recording, so therefore the urgency is taken away because I don't have to be there live. I very, very, very rarely watch the recording. So that's another way of thinking, how like, are you investing that time into yourself? But yeah, it's it's a big one. But I think for you and I, like, what would you say are the benefits that you have gained from investing in yourself, not just with this, but with other things as
Yeah.
well?
Oh my gosh, so much. I mean, firstly, let's just, new skills. So having been a teacher, obviously I invested in myself right at the beginning of there. I skilled up, but then I had this big change in direction, and I've had to skill up. I've had to get new skills, kind of coaching skills. I now can teach breath work. I can train to be a hypnotherapist. It's not that I use that massively, but I have got all these new skills, and I think that is something which investing yourself gives you. So which I really wanted to learn. So I've got that. But then personally, it has, for me, it's community. I have
Totally.
met.
Yeah.
I've met you. I've met so many people all over the world, which is
Yeah.
I absolutely love. And I know that you can create really deep connections. Well, like this last week, I did it in person. I met people in person, but also online, throughout the whole world, and I love that.
Yeah.
And then collaborate. Like look at what we're doing now. You can collaborate and do things together because you met these connections with people who are on the same. I hate this word, but on the same journey as you, doing the same.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're so lucky that actually we've got the internet and all these different courses, because you're going to meet someone who is wanting the same or learning the same way. So yes, it's exciting. And I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't have invested in what I'm doing. If you're in your own community where you are, as much as I love all my friends and everything where I am locally and in my world, it's so much more expansive to put it out there and meet all these other people who are different, same but different.
Yeah, it's so true. You're so right. It's so true. And when you meet people, well, like you say, all over the world, because both you and I have met people all over the world, haven't we? Through things that we've done online. And it's so true. That in itself is a really good investment, because you never know where those. I mean, look what you and I have ended up doing together. We do a Monday motivation every week. We put it out on our podcast. You just never know where these friendships might lead, and inevitably when you're investing in, say, a course with other people online, then obviously you are going to be on the same journey as those other people, and it's so lovely. and I've really found this. Well, I found this through the podcast, but you know, it's so lovely to to sort of meet people who are kind of really your tribe. And actually, that it is a really, really good way of meeting people who are on the same path as you. And it can be quite tricky to make new friends as an adult. And certainly from a single child free person's point of view, it's incredibly important to have, you know, to have people in your life who are also single and child free. Because, you know, we live in a world that's built for couples. So from my point of view, I mean, you know, my membership, Thrive Solo, like there's you know there's 41 or 42 women, however many we are, and we've you know we now have this online community where we just totally get each other, and we totally have each other's back, and they're investing in a membership, they're investing in a community and in a membership.
And you know, they get so much out of it. You know, tell us.
I
Yeah.
hope so. Well, yeah, I mean, it's I hope they do, but yeah, so basically, and funnily enough, it's April the 1st, so we're doing, so every month we have, I'm sorry, I'm not advertising the membership, it's not even open at the moment, but yes, so every month we have 3 live calls. We also have a book club, which is always a personal growth book club, um, personal growth book rather, and then we have a theme of the month. So of the 3, so I do 2 podcasts. I do one podcast to go alongside the book. I do another podcast to go alongside whatever our theme of the month is. And again, that is also like a self-development, personal growth type theme. And then the 3 live calls are, one's about the theme, one's about the book, and one is just an open chat, general live call. But yeah, those women are investing in a membership. But what that membership is giving them is a built-in community of single child-free women who they can who all have each other's backs. And also they're investing in themselves from a sort of a growth and expansion point of view, because when I started this membership, I wanted it very much to be about that, not about, oh, we're all single and childless and, you know, da 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 da. I wanted it to be more like, we happen to be single and not have kids, but we also want to make the fucking most of our lives. So let's do it. So every month we focus on a different theme. Like, for example, this month of April, from today, I just literally dropped the podcast to go alongside it in our WhatsApp chat. I've called it Creating a Vision for Your Future. So we're going to be talking a bit about visualization. We're going to be talking about vision boards and just creating a vision for the future. So yeah, you know, that is a way that they have invested in me and in my membership to help them grow and help them, you know, feel a part of a community. So I mean, it's, and you know, it's a monthly subscription, and it's not that expensive. Well, I suppose it's all relative. It's 25. Actually, now it's now £27 a month, but it's, you know, it really depends what you put value on. Like, what do you put value on? And if you value going out, you know, twice a week to a restaurant for a meal over, um, you know, your own growth or whatever, or learning, whatever it might be, you know, we choose what's valuable to us. Ultimately, that's what it is. So we've just got to ask ourselves what is most valuable, and ask ourselves, in fact, speaking of valuable, what are your values? Have you actually sat down and worked out what your values are, and are you living your life in accordance with those values? I think that's a really useful exercise. We're reading a book in the book club at the moment called Overcoming Under Earning by someone called Barbara Stanny, and she gets you to do this exercise of basically, there's a whole massive list of values, and you just have to very quickly, without really thinking about it, just kind of tick like your sort of top 10 values. But it's a really interesting exercise to do, because I don't think we very often do, we don't very often sit down and say, what are my most important values? Like, what are they? And am I living in accordance with those values? But yeah, it comes down to us making a choice as to what is important to us, and that's where we're going to spend our money ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting like that, because one of my values is growth. You know, it's about growing, and that is really important to me in terms of the way I live. I always want to be making sure I am growing. So investing in my own growth is really important, and I would rather invest in that than I would buy myself a new outfit every week or whatever. You know, it's just, or it's, you know, as much as I would love to do that as well, but you know, it's kind of like making a choice of where's your energy focused on, and And yeah, I love that, Lucy, and that you know, it's a decision that you need to make, and what is important to you. And yeah, the value exercise is super important. I love doing
Yeah.
that with people as well, is because you think you know what your values are, but if you actually have to limit them down to say 5 and put them in order, that is a very powerful exercise, because quite
Yeah.
often thought was important, when you really think about it, actually might not even make the list.
Yeah.
So yeah, freedom is my top
So
value.
I was just going to say I was literally just going to say freedom's my top one
And
as well.
you generally then start, you realize that the people who you really want to hang out with and spend time with often have a very similar values, because that's
Yeah.
our content of what you know, what makes us tick. So
Totally. Totally. Well, unless there's anything else you want to say, I think I'm all
yeah.
invested in myself out. I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we should mention before we wrap up. Actually, let me ask you, how, given the fact that you've just made a big investment and flown to San Diego and done an advanced level 2 breathwork retreat, how do you think you have benefited from that?
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, so much. So personally, I I have come back and I feel like I know myself so much better. I feel like I literally saw into my soul. That's so nice. That I feel like I really have a much better understanding of me. I feel like I
Wow.
let go of a load of stuff, which, oh my gosh, doing breath work with a group of 30 other breathwork facilitators, because everyone's kind of knows breathwork, and everybody you know, really gives themselves permission to properly let go, is a crazy experience, something I have never experienced before. And they were just mind-blowing, and just really allowed me to just, yeah, I mean, out of the 4 breathwork sessions we had, like the full-on 4 breathwork, 3 of them were horribly uncomfortable, and I did not enjoy them at all, because it was a process of just really letting go of a lot of stuff. The final one was unbelievably blissful, amazing, incredible, and yeah, it's about with. So sometimes when you're investing in yourself and you're doing this stuff, it's not pleasant, your demons, and you're meeting parts of you which feel is quite uncomfortable and not very nice. But so I just feel like I've come back, and I feel like yes, I'm ready to take the world. I've let go of a lot of that crap. We talked a lot about social conditioning and how so much of what we pick up as we go through life, from, and nobody's fault, but just from life, from culture, from society, holds us back. We are our own worst enemies. And actually now I just feel so ready just to go, fuck that, and just take on the world and do my thing. And so that was amazing. So yes,
And kind of that's priceless.
yeah,
That's
totally,
priceless.
yeah.
Like you just can't put a price on what that means. Like, to go to something for 5 days that makes you come home and feel like you've shed all of these layers, and you're like, I'm not going to let crap hold me back anymore. That's
It is,
everything.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is what the trick now is, to stay in that,
Yeah.
to stay in that. It was quite funny at the end. We were all like, oh my gosh, we were in such a bubble of like, it's like, and there was a lot of talk from from the people teaching us stuff, right? How do you now stay in this energy,
And
as it
how
were?
and what did they say you have to do to stay in that energy?
Well,
Because I so have been there, where I've done something like that, and, well, not a breathwork retreat, but other things, and well, even just a breathwork session.
yeah,
It's like, you do a
exactly.
20-minute
Well,
breathwork session. How do you stay there?
firstly, you have a daily practice. You
Yeah.
have a daily where you know, whatever that looks like for you, that you get back into that energy. So for me, that will be breathwork, journaling, which I've never been a major journaler, but I think after this week I am definitely going to be doing a lot more journaling, because I have really seen the value of that. And yeah, just taking time out, getting out of the doing and being more of the being.
Yeah.
That was a big thing I'm going to take away from this time. So yes, so the daily practice, and obviously the other thing is connections, connecting with people who are in the same thing as you, in the, you know, and just keeping those connections going, and just constantly reminding yourself of what you know, and not get dragged down in the doingness of life, and in that nitty gritty, which is obviously, you know, you've got to take action and do things to kind of get to make progress. But I think it's very easy sometimes to get too much in stuff, and then it really pulls down your energy, and kind of, you know, the biggest takeaway I've learned, and I kind of knew this, but is everything is energy. And in order to live a really fulfilled, happy life, we just got to keep our energy. We've got to really look after our energy. And in the sense that, oh gosh, see, it's really hard. A lot of it's very hard to explain, to put words to.
But ultimately, I mean, the way that I think of it is that we have to focus on what feels good all the time. We have to keep focusing on what feels good. And and again, we always say this every single time, but it's down to awareness. If we're not aware, then we can't do anything about it. So the first thing we have to do is to just keep cultivating that awareness. Put those fucking reminders in your phones, guys, because it's a game changer. Because otherwise you forget, and you go back into, you know, back onto autopilot, and you forget to check in with yourself. So put the reminders in your phone. How am I feeling? I have them every hour at least coming up on my phone. I use an app called I Am. I also put my own reminders in. But when you put reminders in your phone to remind you to check in with how you're feeling, then you become aware of how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and therefore you can shift your focus, if necessary, onto something else. And it just reminds you even if, like, I'll sometimes do it where if I'm feeling a bit shite, I'll do it where I'll listen to a couple of songs that I know give me goosebumps and make me feel amazing, and bang, that shifts your energy in 3 minutes. It's like, it's so easy to do that. So we should all be doing it. And it is about just constantly following what feels good. And I always use Johnny, my cat, as an example, but he's such a good example of, I just have to look at that cat and he makes me, like, my heart just fills up, and I feel so grateful for him every bloody day, and I feel so much love. And that's what I think you and I are talking about, you know, when it comes to remembering that everything is energy, and remembering that we want to be feeling good as much as we possibly can. That doesn't mean we can't feel sad, and we can't feel angry, and we can't feel stressed, and blah, 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 blah. But it just means that we want to try and feel those good feelings 51% and the shit feelings 49%, if we possibly can.
And also getting curious about when you are not feeling like that, getting curious about the parts of you which are bringing stuff up. So when you are feeling anything other than good, it's not judging, not trying to squash it and say, oh, you know, everything is amazing. So when you do feel pissed off with someone, or something's really got you, it's actually like curious, like, that's interesting that feeling is there. And quite probably it's some small part of you, some child part of you, which is kind of raising up, wanting to be recognized, wanting to have some sort of love. And actually, this is a lot of what I learned. It's like, just get curious with those parts, don't suppress them, just go, what is it that is wanting, that part of me is needing? And quite often it's probably just needs love, lots of compassion.
Yeah.
And you know, all we wanted when we were younger is to be loved, to belong, to be seen. And those parts of you, if they didn't get that recognition then, are the parts which will raise up now. You know, particularly, you know, if you, for example, if let me try and think of an example. Oh yes, so one night when I was away, I was absolutely exhausted it was quite draining, and there was a dance party one evening, and I literally got to my bed. I was going to change, and then I literally was like, I just can't. I need to just rest. And then the following morning, in my mind, I was going over and over and going, oh, I should have gone. Why didn't I go? I out, really beating myself up about it. And I was like, hold on a minute, what's all that about? And actually, I kind of was like, well, there was a part of me which was just craves connection and craves, wanting to be with people. And actually, it was that part which was like, right, do you know what? It's fine. You've got the connection, and just let it go. So it's kind of just getting curious with those parts of you and giving them what they need. And then they just sort of, it fizzles away. So that's, I think, really important as well, not to, it's great to, quite right, yeah, you've got to just stay in the energy and not allow yourself to get dragged down, but also recognize the parts of you that need something, which might need something, and then they can go. Because otherwise, if we keep what we don't want to do is squash down emotions, because they pop up anyway. They're going to pop up. So yeah. Anyway, nice.
Oh my God, we've gone well over. Well, this time next week, God knows what we'll talk about, but it'll be something random, as it always is. It's lovely to see you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Lots of love, babe. Speak later.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.